You're tuned in to our 4th of July 2025 flashback weekend, a look back at some of the biggest stories we've been covering for you so far in 2025. What you're about to hear is a previous broadcast.
This is a True Crime New Crime Report, the latest on new cases we're following at True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
On March 27th, 2025, in a Tallahassee courtroom, Judge Stephen Everett made a decision with potential ramifications for Donna Adelson's murder trial. He ruled that prosecutors could question Wendi Adelson, the defendant's daughter and ex-wife of the slain law professor Dan Markel, about her novel, This Is Our Story, if she contradicts prior statements or the established record while testifying. This ruling, seemingly procedural, carries significant weight. To understand its importance, it's crucial to grasp the context of Donna Adelson's trial. She is not solely accused of murder, but also of being part of a family conspiracy that allegedly began when her daughter felt trapped in Tallahassee due to a post-divorce custody battle. The prosecution's motive theory hinges on Wendi Adelson's desire to relocate to South Florida with her children, a move opposed by Dan Markel and legally blocked by a judge. Prosecutors contend that this restriction fueled Wendi's family to orchestrate the murder. This Is Our Story, published in 2011, introduces a layer of complexity. The novel features Lily, a lawyer who leaves her D.C. career to follow her academic husband to a university town in North Florida, becomes dissatisfied, and eventually excludes him from her life, adopting a child independently. The parallels between Lily's experiences and Wendi's life are striking, particularly in the emotional undercurrents of discontent and resentment. The prosecution views this not as coincidence, but as a potential insight into Wendi's state of mind and the family dynamics that they believe motivated Donna Adelson. However, the legal admissibility of fiction as evidence is complex. Donna Adelson's attorney, Joshua Zellman, argued against any mention of the book, asserting its fictional nature, its creation years before the murder, and the circumstantial nature of the similarities between Lily and Wendi. He cautioned against misleading the jury into believing Wendi's fiction implicated Donna in a real crime. Zellman likened introducing the book to presenting a dream as evidence, emphasizing that a fictional character's rejection of a husband in small-town life does not equate to a real-life murder plot. He also pointed out that the book does not depict a vengeful character. In one scene, Lily expresses gratitude to her husband for bringing her to Tallahassee. Conversely, the prosecution intends to use the book for impeachment purposes, not as direct proof of the murder. If Wendi testifies in a way that contradicts the sentiments expressed in her novel, for instance, claiming contentment in Tallahassee or denying attempts to alienate Dan from their children, This Is Our Story becomes relevant. Judge Everett's ruling permits the prosecution to use the book to challenge Wendi's credibility on specific topics if her trial testimony deviates from her prior statements or the content of her book. This ruling places Wendi in a precarious position. She must either acknowledge the emotional parallels between her life and her novel or risk being accused of inconsistency. Both options carry potential consequences for Donna's defense. If Wendi acknowledges the book's themes, the jury might infer a motive. If she disavows the book, her credibility could be undermined. The jury's perception is also a factor. Even brief mentions of the book during cross-examination could leave an impression, potentially influencing how they view Wendi and, by extension, her mother. Donna Adelson's legal team will likely continue to limit the book's impact, arguing its fictional nature and the temporal gap between its publication and the alleged crime. However, the prosecution only needs a single contradiction to introduce the novel. Judge Everett's ruling, while narrow, opens a door that could significantly impact the trial, especially given the case's reliance on family dynamics, custody disputes, and emotional history. Whether Wendi's past writings become a pivotal point or mere background noise will depend on future developments. The novel itself, a work of fiction centered on human trafficking, contains a subplot that has drawn scrutiny in Donna Adelson's case. While the primary narrative addresses serious issues, it is the personal story of Lily that has become relevant to the legal proceedings. Wendi Adelson published This Is Our Story in 2011, years before Dan Markel's murder and her mother's implication in the crime. Initially, the book garnered modest attention within academic and legal circles, even serving as course material in some universities. However, after Dan's murder, the novel transformed into an unexpected element of the unfolding legal drama. In the book, Lily, an immigration attorney, relocates from Washington, D.C. to a small southern college town with her academic husband. The fictional North Florida State University bears a resemblance to Florida State in Tallahassee, and the town is described disparagingly. Lily experiences marital discord, ultimately choosing to adopt a child independently and exclude her husband from their lives. This narrative arc, involving the dissolution of a marriage and the rejection of a small-town existence, mirrors aspects of Wendi Adelson's life. Wendi Adelson moved to Tallahassee in 2006 when Dan Markell joined FSU, leaving behind her career in South Florida. She later expressed feeling out of place in Tallahassee. The couple divorced in 2013, with Dan receiving shared custody. When Wendi sought to relocate to South Florida, her request was denied and she remained in Tallahassee. Following Dan's murder in 2014, Wendi's family became central to the investigation, with allegations that they conspired to have Dan killed so Wendi could move with her children. Wendi has consistently denied involvement, but the prosecution's theory has brought her personal experiences and writings into focus. The afterword of This Is Our Story, where Wendi acknowledges that the character Lily shares similarities with her, is particularly relevant. This admission blurs the line between fiction and reality, prompting the prosecution to explore potential connections between the novel's themes and the alleged motive for the murder. Prosecutors may focus on Lily's decision to adopt a child alone, excluding her estranged husband, as a parallel to Wendi's legal name change of her sons after Dan's death. This action, perceived by some as an attempt to erase Dan's memory, combined with Wendi's desire to relocate and alleged comments about feeling trapped, supports the prosecution's narrative. Throughout the novel, subtle expressions of dissatisfaction with life in a small southern town resonate with the prosecution's theory. While Lily does not express overt anger, her underlying discontent is evident. Her journey towards self-discovery through her work, rather than through her marriage, can be interpreted as a narrative of escape and reinvention. In the context of the murder case, the prosecution may argue that this reflects Wendi's desire to escape her circumstances in Tallahassee. The defense counters that the novel's publication in 2011, before the divorce and murder, negates its relevance to events years later. They argue that writing about dissatisfaction in 2011 does not imply a murder plot in 2014, nor does a fictional character's marital issues reflect a desire for violence in real life. The defense views the book as a coincidence being exploited by the prosecution. However, the prosecution's use of the book is not about proving direct causation, but about providing context. In a case reliant on circumstantial evidence and inferences about emotional states, context can be influential. Judge Everett's ruling reflects this distinction, allowing the book to be used only if Wendi's testimony contradicts the sentiments expressed within its pages. If Wendi testifies that she was content in Tallahassee and had a positive co-parenting relationship with Dan, the prosecution can use the novel to challenge her honesty. This strategy aims to undermine Wendi's credibility, which is crucial given her central role as a witness. There is an inherent irony in the novel's current role. Intended to raise awareness about human trafficking, it is now being scrutinized for its personal undercurrents. The trafficking plot has been overshadowed by the narrative of a woman navigating a strained marriage in an unfamiliar town. Whether This Is Our Story contains autobiographical elements is a question Wendi may have to address under oath. The prosecution is likely to focus on the character of Lily, her relationship with Josh, and the depiction of the college town, seeking to uncover parallels with Wendi's own experiences. The intersection of fiction, testimony, and family loyalty creates a complex dynamic in the courtroom. While facts are paramount, the emotional aspects of the case, involving family dynamics and personal tragedies, can significantly influence the jury. The novel serves as a tool to potentially undermine Wendi Adelson's credibility, a key witness for the prosecution. During her brother Charlie Adelson's trial, prosecutors were permitted limited use of the book to cross-examine Wendi about her prior statements. The aim was not to prove Charlie's guilt through the novel, but to question Wendi's honesty regarding family dynamics and the events leading to Dan Markel's death. The court allowed this under strict conditions, preventing the book from being presented as independent evidence. This precedent now applies to Donna Adelson's trial. The prosecution's strategy involves keeping the book in the background, ready to be used if Wendi's testimony falters. If Wendi claims she was never unhappy in Tallahassee, or that her family did not express negative sentiments about being trapped, the prosecution can introduce the novel to challenge these assertions. The impact of confronting Wendi with her own writing extends beyond factual accuracy to perception. Jurors may interpret inconsistencies as signs of dishonesty, potentially affecting their view of Wendi and, by extension, her mother. The prosecution's theory posits a coordinated family effort where Wendi's dissatisfaction was shared and acted upon by her family. The novel is seen as outlining this emotional landscape. For Donna's defense, the risk lies in the jury drawing parallels between the fictional narrative and real-life events, potentially viewing motive as a relatable desire to help a family member. However, the prosecution must also be cautious not to overemphasize the book, which could alienate the jury or suggest a lack of substantive evidence. Legal analysts describe the strategy as risky, but potentially rewarding. If Wendi's testimony is consistent, the book may not be mentioned. But any discrepancy, particularly regarding her feelings about Tallahassee, could open the door for its introduction. The manner in which the prosecution presents the book is crucial. A subtle approach may be more effective than a dramatic reveal. Donna Adelson's defense team must prepare Wendi for potential questions about the book, emphasizing its fictional nature and the temporal gap between its writing and the events of the case. Ultimately, the moment Wendi is questioned about the book, if it occurs, could be pivotal. Any sign of fluster or inconsistency could damage her credibility and cast a shadow over her testimony, potentially influencing the jury's perception of her mother. The emotional weight of the case, involving a respected law professor's murder and the implication of his ex-wife's family, is significant. The novel's reemergence in the courtroom adds another layer of complexity, serving as a test of Wendi's narrative. The trial's unfolding will determine whether the prosecution gets the opportunity to use the book. If they do, the novel, once a minor aspect of Wendi Adelson's career, could become a defining element of her mother's trial. The jury's interpretation of this intersection between fiction and reality will be crucial in understanding the family's story and the alleged motive behind the crime.
The neighborhood was picture perfect. Manicured lawns, kids riding bikes, friendly smiles exchanged over white picket fences. And then there was him, the guy who never made eye contact, the one who only left his house at night, dragging black trash bags to the curb, bags that sometimes twitched. He's just a little odd, they said. Just keeps to himself until the smell started. Until the missing pets turned into missing people. Until someone finally had the nerve to peek inside that basement window. And if they had only subscribed to True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts, they could have listened to Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski ad-free. And before everyone else, they could have recognized the warning signs. They could have gotten out, but they didn't. And now, they're part of the next episode. Don't make the same mistake. Subscribe now to True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts.